Good morning guys, welcome to Sweden. I'm Theo Stocker for Yachting Monthly and I have come to test the boat that's right here, which is the Linjett 34. Yesterday we were out testing the Linjett 36, which is their latest model, and while I was here I thought it was a good opportunity to test the 34 behind me. Now technically it's not a brand new boat because the design has been out since 2012, but she is still absolutely stunning and we've never tested her, so I thought I'd go for a sail, show you what she's all about and see what she is like on the water and down below, and see if a design from 2012 is still relevant today. Now my first impressions are that she is absolutely stunning. We've got a low freeboard, a low coach roof, so she's a proper sort of sleek looking Baltic cruiser. She's a serious cruising boat though. She's got a good amount of ballast in her keel. She's got loads of stowage and there are some really clever little design ideas that I'm looking forward to showing you. We've got a tiny bit of wind at the moment and I'm hoping that when we head out a little bit further out to sea that way, that we will find a bit more breeze and we can get this boat properly sailing. It's a little bit of a grey day, but it should be fun on the water, so come with me and we'll hop on board. Oh, there we go, it's nice and warm down here. Before we go sailing, I thought I'd just give you a quick tour down below. We can see what it's all about down here. And then hopefully the wind will build up a little bit and we'll get out sailing. Now, this is the sort of the quintessential Scandinavian cruising boat, so don't expect any massive surprises in terms of layout and arrangements and that kind of stuff. The arrangement on this boat is really similar to other Linjetts. We've just been on the brand new 36, which is quite similar in layout to the old 37 that it's replacing. The 34 in turn replaced the 33 a few years ago, and there was a 32 and a 30. Linjett has only ever built 10 models in its whole history since 1973, which just shows that they're building boats that are meant to have timeless appeal, and I think they're pretty successful in doing that, that these are classic looking boats and really attractive for that. So we come down and for a 34 footer, this galley is absolutely amazing. We've got huge amounts of work surface space. It helps that the oven is hidden away behind there. We've got a big 2-burner gas oven, a nice big double sink and a huge top opening fridge here. And that also opens at the back, so you can get to all the little bits and bobs in the basket at the back. I think they can add a second fridge in the cockpit locker if you wanted to, or over on starboard side where we've got the chart table, which I'll show you in a second. You can have a fridge under that if you want a standing chart table, or instead of some of the drawers underneath it. So there's lots of options that you can do to tweak the boat when you order your one. Nice big double sink so you can do your washing up and you've got somewhere to drain it. And then loads of lockers around here. We've got a bin on the end. All of the cupboards and drawers are now soft close, so it's all sort of really high-end finish. You'll notice here all of the drawers themselves, sorry, are made of oak, and we've got this lovely tongue and groove here, which shows that there's still sort of traditional craftsmanship and proper materials going into all of the bits, even when they're hidden out of the way. Over on starboard side then we've got a chart table, and on this boat it's a proper chart table, forward facing, so I can see out of the hull windows here, I can see out of the coach roof windows, and I've got a full, I can easily fit my leisure folio chart here. I think I've got, in Scandinavia they tend to navigate on these A3 books, but a leisure folio chart's more or less that size, so I've got plenty of space to do my paper navigation if I want to. I haven't got any instrument repeaters down here at the moment. I'm sure they could fit a small chart plot if you wanted to, but actually in reality I think most people would use an iPad to mirror the plotter up on deck, so that when you're doing your planning you don't have to sit out in the cold. There's loads of storage space under here, so there's plenty of space for all of your charts and that kind of stuff. And then outboard, we've got a really neat electrical installation. I've got the Victron energy system that shows me all of my power coming in. So we're onshore power at the moment. There is an inverter if I want to run an inverter. alternator solar. Got 230 watts of potential solar power on the coach roof just above me. They can fit a small generator if you want to, but this boat wasn't originally designed to have a generator, so that would take you up a bit of space in the cockpit locker as well, but they could squeeze that in if you wanted to. And then a nice switch panel and really neat electrical installation with a few of the black box systems in here as well. And actually this boat's got Orca, which is a sort of a tablet-based navigation system, as well as the Raymarine chart plotter up on deck. That's really neat, and obviously a little cubby hole for binoculars and wires and brackets and all that kind of stuff in there, which is really nice to have, and drawers underneath the chart table as well. This is an owner's boat, so I'll try not to show too many of their personal effects in the tour, but thank you very much for letting us come on your boat. And then underneath me in the seat here, I've also got a bit more bin stowage as well. And you can see just how nicely finished everything is. It's a proper sailing boat in that we've got rounded corners everywhere, so you're not going to bash into any sharp edges. Decent fiddles on everything, so you can use them as handholds. And then we've also got good grab rails all around the place. On both sides, nice finish with a bit of stainless steel and a leather covered, so it all looks really good. And for a boat of this size, I think we've got huge amounts of light coming down below. All of the windows are toughened glass, double toughened glass in the hull windows here. It's an optional extra in the 34 to have the hull windows. They weren't originally there. If you don't have them, these big lockers that we've got in the saloon come aft and fill up this space, and then at the forward end you would then have some open bookshelves. One of the things that I really like about this boat and that makes it look really classy is the edging for this chart table. Effectively you end up with this beautiful snaking line that curves all the way around the saloon. Nice curved corners in the saloon settees, so that comes all the way around. You feel nice and sort of cocooned in this boat. Obviously you can see we haven't got loads of headroom. I've got about 186, 187 headroom at the aft end of the saloon, and then at the forward end of the saloon we're at about 182 centimetres of headroom there. Similar amounts in the aft cabin and a little bit less in the forward cabin. That's because we've got nice low freeboard and nice low coach roof, which makes this boat look very pretty, but also seaworthy because you haven't got lots of extra weight up top. Right, while we're here, let me show you the heads. And we've got a really generous heads compartment on this boat. You come in and, well, excuse me if I sit on the toilet while I talk to you, but we've got a nice sink here, lockers outboard. This boat doesn't actually have a mirror behind the sink, but there is one on the back of the door next to you. Loads of stowage, so there's some hanging space in there, and a rather neat touch is that at the aft end of the aft end here we've actually got access, and that goes into the cockpit locker, and the diesel heater is in there, so it actually keeps it all quite nice and warm. So if you're storing sailing kit, that's a really good place to put it. We've got a draining floor and a shower pump here. Handset comes up, so it's not a really big shower compartment. There's no separate area, so the floor will get wet if you have a shower in here. But actually on a boat this size, to have a heads like this is really nice. We've got electric pumping toilet and absolutely loads of stowage space. And we've got an opening hatch as well, so we can ventilate it, clear the steam and that kind of stuff. So it's a really nice heads compartment. So this boat doesn't have an option for 3 cabins, it's just a 2 cabin layout, but that does mean you get a really good cockpit locker and a decent size heads. Let's have a look over on port then at the aft double cabin. So this is going to be the guest cabin if you're taking friends with you. It's a really nice space. I've got plenty of room to sit up. They've used the coamings well here to create a bit more head space. Really comfortable bed. It's just over 2 metres long, 160 centimetres wide, so a nice big area. It's not quite rectangular, but not far off it. And then they've built in lots of stowage as well, so a good big bin there for boots and shoes and all that kind of stuff. A nice locker outboard. That's got shelved space in there rather than hanging space. It's a little bit shallow for hanging space, really. And then overhead lockers there as well. So this isn't the owner's cabin. The owner's cabin is forward, but for your guests coming on board for a week or so, it's a really comfortable space. We've also got some we've got some ventilation in here, so there are 2 opening hatches, one into the cockpit and one outboard, so you get some views as well. And rather neatly, to keep this door out of the way, undo the little leather strap, and the door opens, unfolds like that. There you go. So it's all done really nicely, really beautiful finish. This boat is in Kaya mahogany, but you can have oak if you want to. Right, let's go forwards. I'll show you around the saloon properly now, and then we'll look at the forward cabin. So coming forwards in the saloon, I'm just going to grab a seat here. You can see we've got 2 straight settees either side. There's a little bit of an L shape here, but not a huge amount, but it is just enough so you can squeeze a couple more people in. You can actually get 6 people around this table. The leaves fold up like that. Obviously lots of rounded corners, and the table's got solid wood edges, so it's all properly made. And then in here you've also got space for table mats and wine bottles and all that kind of stuff. I really like this arrangement. It's very comfortable indeed, and these lockers outboard that I mentioned, and a little bit of bookshelf space underneath as well. Loads of light coming in. I've got 2 opening hatches. On this boat they actually both open aft, but you can have them so they open forwards and aft, so you can improve ventilation and that kind of thing. You'll notice that we've got a keel stepped mast, which means that you can have a slightly narrower profile and a lighter rig, and a little bit more adjustable with the backstay once you're up on deck. You can just about squeeze around behind the mast, but I'm going to come around this side. I'll lower the table and then come into the forward cabin, where we've got a really nice space in here. This is where you feel a little bit the size of the boat, that you're only in a 34-footer, and also she is a Baltic cruiser that's designed to sail really well upwind, so her beam is a little bit narrower than some modern boats, particularly in the bow where you've got this beautiful fine entry that makes sailing to windward an absolute pleasure. But because of that, the foot end of this V berth is a little bit narrow. It's nothing that we're not used to, but on really new modern boats where they put in hull chines and massive beam up forwards, you might get a little bit more space. That is probably a compromise I'm prepared to accept for a boat that sails, or should sail, as nicely as this one. We haven't actually been out yet. Loads of stowage built in here. So we've got hanging and lockers and shelved lockers either side. Above the bunks, we've got these full-length lockers with sliding hatches. It's nice that they cover up so you can keep all your stuff secure. You haven't got things spilling out of shelves. Little touches like the fact they've put in shelves just above each berth mean that you've got somewhere to put, I don't know, reading glasses, mobile phone, book, glass of water, whatever it is you want at night. And then really top quality fitting, so you've got reading lights with USB sockets above both bunks. And rather cleverly, the door on this one, rather than having a hinged door, and this is a bit of a Linjett trademark, is that you have a sliding door there which takes up a minimum amount of space. And there's just a little catch that stops it sliding when you're heeling. And then obviously, just to point out, we've got a large opening hatch above us, and we've got these nice generous hull windows that are the optional extra. And on this boat we've got wooden slats lining the hulls and keep it all nice and insulated. We've got the heating running, so it is lovely and cosy in here. I can imagine this being a very nice place to sleep when you're at anchor or in harbour. Just to point out a couple of stowage bits, you've also got access underneath here. At the forward end of the bunk, you see we've got these slatted bed bases, which keeps it very comfortable and nicely aerated. Loads of stowage at the forward end, bin stowage to starboard, and then we've also got some really good drawers, easy access drawers underneath the bunk, and a cupboard on this side. And just to say about the saloon as well, I forgot to mention, on either side we've got the water tanks under the berths in the saloon, so you don't get those for stowage. We've got 130 litres either side, so for a 34-footer to have 260 litres of fresh water, that's really generous amounts of tankage for it going cruising for slightly longer. While we're in the saloon, I thought I would just show you the construction of the boat. So we'll lift up our floor panel. You can see here that all of the floorboards are screwed down apart from these access panels, and they've got some sort of felt edging around them, so there's no squeaking, no groaning while you're underway, and it also makes sure that no dirt gets down there and wedges them closed or starts damaging them. The boat is vacuum infused, so they vacuum infuse the two halves of the hull and laminate them together. We've got solid laminate below the waterline in polyester resin, and then above the waterline it is Divinycell core, and then we've got a hand laminated coach roof, so that you get a really nice high gloss finish on that. One of the things that shows this is a proper cruising boat, I suppose. You've got a slightly deeper bilge and a really good big deep bilge sump, so rather than having a flat bottom to the hull, they actually mould in the keel stub, and that means you get a much stronger, more secure attachment of the keel. The hull itself is stronger around there, and then they laminate in the hull frames. The other thing that they do with the keel is, rather than attaching the keel on a straight line, they have some steps in it, so that if you were to hit something and you've obviously got lots of leverage, you haven't got a single line to hinge on. You've actually got a number of different levels, which makes the attachment that much more secure. And then the keel itself is, I think it's just over 2 tons, and it's lead as well, so you've got a really low centre of gravity, which, coupled with the top sides and the vacuum infusion, mean that you've got a really good stiff boat of around about 40% ballast ratio, so she'll stand up to her canvas very well. While I'm here, I'll just mention the hull shape, because these boats have a slightly more traditional hull shape than the latest generation of boats, and that's something that Linjett have stuck with even for their latest models, is that they want a boat that will sail really nicely in all conditions, and when she's fully loaded up with water and fuel and all of your cruising stuff, she'll have a good capacity to take cruising kit without losing loads of performance. A more lightweight boat, or a boat that's really beamy with more wetted surface area, will suffer a lot more when you load them up. These boats will just keep on going. So they are fast, you could race them, but they're really intended for fast cruising and coping with all the stuff that cruising entails. Okay, one more thing to show you down below, and that is the engine bay. And on this boat, rather than having hinge up steps, we've got a really neat installation here. So I'll just lift off the steps. This boat's got oak floors, but you can opt for whatever you want, walnut or mahogany or teak or whatever you want it to look like. You can have your floors. Let's just move that mat out of the way, and then the front panel lifts off, so that all comes apart, and you've got then brilliant access to your engine. So we've got a Yanmar 30 horsepower engine in here, and you've got really good access to the systems, filters, header tanks, water pump, alternator. I think the water strainer might actually be at the back, so that's the only thing that isn't quite so easy to access, because obviously there isn't a whole load of space to put that here. But actually, on the whole, accessing all of the systems for, there's your oil dipstick, so you can get everything you need to. And it's really nice actually on this boat that the engine, you can reach all the way down the back of the engine. You can access that from the aft cabin and get to the other side of the engine as well. But getting to that engine to work on is really nice and really easy. Having that lift off panel rather than the lift up steps actually gives you much better access. The alternator is a high capacity alternator. You can specify other ones. Other Linjetts have got water cooled, so you can have super high capacity if you wanted, no induction cooking. This one's high output, but is a standard alternator. Right, well, we are now motoring out. We're out on the water and we're motoring to a sailing area. We're nearly there. We've just got time to show you around a little bit on deck before we put the sails up and see what you can do under sail. Now, you'll notice that I've got a really big single wheel steering on this boat. This is an option. You can have a wheel, but nicely you can also have tiller steering. And just underneath here, you can see the rudder stock, and the single piece rudder then comes out forwards, and you can sit further forwards in the cockpit on either side. I quite like that because it means you can steer from under the shelter of the spray hood, but a lot of people prefer wheels, and also the wheel is further aft and doesn't take up as much room with the steering. The hull moulding, the deck moulding remains exactly as it is, so it's really just down to a choice of personal preference. Out the wheel, I've got an autopilot control and I've got a chart plotter. One nice little thing about this chart plotter is if I'm sitting outboard, I can spin the whole pod round. I can sit here and I can see my chart plotter. People further forward in the cockpit can see the chart plotter and the instruments as well. depending on where you're sitting, that's a really nice option to have as a way of having a single chart plotter. If you have a tiller, then the chart plotter would be forward on a bracket under the spray hood. In terms of sailing the boat, we've got a really good sensible setup that's really similar to all the other Linjetts. We've obviously got aft helm seats, so lots of boats are open transoms now. I really like having a seat behind, particularly if you've got a wheel. It's nice to have a seat at the back, and it's more sociable seating area once you're in harbour. Underneath my backside here is a lazarette. So that's on a gas strut, and in there we've got the windlass for the stern anchor. This boat actually doesn't have a bow anchor because it is just for mooring bows to in the Baltic. We've got a rail for all of our lines, loads of some shelving and loads of storage, and there's actually a wooden floor in there that you can lift up and store more stuff really deep down that you maybe don't use quite as frequently. I can sit outboard as well, so I've got a really comfortable seat here where I can easily reach my winch. We've got a single winch on each side, and these are Anderson 46s, and this one is actually a powered winch with a little button there. And then I've got all of my lines led aft under the coamings, and rather than being in just general ducts, each rope has its own stainless steel tube so that you can slide the rope through. If you pull a line out, it's fine, you can just push a mousing cable back through and pull the line through, so that keeps everything really nicely organised and easy to rerun them through. And then I've got 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines coming aft here on either side, so you can have all of your sort of proper sail controls, Cunningham, Vang, outhaul, so you can actually tweak the rig a little bit. And I've also got a manual purchase backstay here. This boat is 6, 12, 24 to 1 purchase. I've got a 9/10 fractional rig. It's an aluminium rig. You can have a carbon rig if you want to. And then it's got a 110% roughly Genoa overlapping. And there's a self-tacking jib as well. Or you can go for a big sort of 140-ish% overlapping Genoa. And the chain plates are set inboard, so you can have that really big sail area. Under my backside here, I keep on sitting where I'm talking about, we've got probably one of the biggest rope bins you'll see on a 34-footer. Really nice big rope bin for storing all of your lines in a sensible order. And there's also a little platform here which I really like, because then it gives you space to put, it's a good space for binoculars and winch handles and a safety knife and that kind of thing, as well as the little cubby holes that you've got forward under the spray hood. So obviously we've got an enclosed helm, but there's a really clever solution that they've come up with here. Some boats you have it where the seat lifts up. This one actually turns into a little boarding platform, and that folds all the way down, and you can open the guard wires here. It's almost like a little diving board, or you can step straight onto the jetty there. That gives you access down onto the bathing platform here, where I've got a fold down ladder, and we've also got the stern anchor, as I mentioned before. Under here is a really good location for life raft stowage. There's various things in here at the moment. There isn't a life raft in there, but you would get a proper life raft in there and a valise stowage that you can then lift straight over the stern should you ever need it. Not that you'd ever want your lovely Linjett 34 to sink, I doubt it would, but it's good to know that you've got a life raft there. Again, we've got this rope stowage on this side, and then just forward of that we've got a really big cockpit locker. So the stowage on this boat is excellent, partly because we've only got 2 cabins and it's a 34-footer. So if I open that, we've got a really big cockpit locker that's big enough to put your dinghy down into. Again, we've got a hanging rail here, which is actually for life jackets and waterproofs and that kind of thing. And because the diesel heater is located in this locker, it's actually really warm in here. I'm warming up nicely as I lean over here. Some nice bits of stowage to organise things, shelves, and it's properly organised. And then there's a wooden base under it, and underneath that is the diesel tank, and I think, Matthew, that's 110 litres, is that right? 110 litres of diesel in there, which should give you pretty good range on the 30 horsepower Yanmar. So that's all really nicely organised. There's also a holding tank in there for the heads. Space for your boat hooks and all that kind of thing, really nicely sorted. At the forward end of the cockpit, you can see we've got a good big spray hood, and I like the spray hoods on the Linjetts because they bring them a long way aft, which means when you're sitting here at the forward end of the cockpit, if it's raining, you're properly sheltered. And then you can always get, there's a zip across the top, Some of the boats have got a drop tent here, so you can close it off there, and then you've actually got a heated area where you can control your autopilot, keep an eye on the chart, and watch keep on deck but in the warm, which when it's chilly like this in Sweden I can imagine is quite appealing. And then we've got a couple of instrument repeaters up there. Obviously the main chart plotter is aft. If you had a tiller with the chart plotter forward, you then also have that. And a couple of nice little details like these little, just making some cubby holes so you've got places to put loose items, your mobile phone or whatever it is, and it's not going to roll around and disappear, as well as your speakers. So a really nice place to be on watch and be out of the weather. I'm going to show you up on deck. As we go, I just mentioned that we've got flexi teak on the deck here. I think we're on to 3rd generation flexi teak now, but I think this might be 2nd generation flexi teak. This boat was built 3 or 4 years ago, so she's not brand new. So given that she's been sailing for a few seasons, I think she's looking in mint condition. Coming forwards then, we've got really nice wide side decks, easy to move around. You can see here we've got the car tracks for a genoa if you wanted that, blocks for spinnaker, and you can either have an asymmetric or a symmetrical spinnaker. This boat is set up for a symmetric spinnaker. There's no bowsprit on this boat. You could add a retractable bowsprit if you wanted a sort of a deck mounted one, if you wanted to fly code sails and that kind of thing. On the coach roof, nice big coach roof, but they've kept it really flush and low, makes it look absolutely lovely. And as with all Linjetts, we've got a coach roof mounted traveller for the main sheet, so that keeps the main sheet out of the cockpit, so that's slightly less performancy in terms of you get a little bit less sort of mechanical advantage for tweaking the main. But that's then a German main sheet system which comes all the way aft, led back to the helm. And you've also got a reasonable purchase to move the main sheet traveller around, so you can actually adjust your sheeting angles and that kind of thing, which I think is really nice, particularly for a boat that sails as well as these boats do. See, we've got some flush hatches there, keeps everything nice and tidy, and all of the lines come from the mast and then down through the ducts, through their little tubes. Sorry, they're not, I said they were stainless steel, they're not stainless steel, but there are special low friction pipes that lead those all the way aft to the coamings. And unusually, this boat, certainly for a modern boat, has inboard chain plates. That means you can keep a nice sort of compact rig, not absolutely massive spreaders. Also gives you really easy access on the side decks, and it gives space for this big overlapping head sail if that's what you want to go for. We've got the smaller overlapping genoa with the coach roof mounted car tracks there. And also on this boat, we've got as is standard on all Linjetts, you've got a self-tacking jib track there, and with a sheet that comes up through the foredeck, and then that's led aft. So that little knot there is your jib sheet. So that then goes to the track. You can, if you want to, have a removable inner forestay, or you can have a blade jib that sets on the foil, or you can just have this one a little bit furled away and use it as a self-tacker. So there are loads of different rig options up here. Lovely sleek lines on the coach roof forward here. A permanent vent, which is good to see. We've got 3 permanent vents on this boat, as well as the opening hatches, and we've got another opening hatch from the forepeak here. Sorry, from the forward cabin. Up in the bow then, we've got an anchor locker. Well, it's a bow locker because on this boat we haven't got a bow anchor at all. Obviously, if you were cruising in the UK, you would have a bow anchor and probably not a stern anchor. If you have a bow anchor, they would mount a bow roller just a port of the forestay here, and that would go over the bow. But it certainly looks very clean and tidy like this, particularly with the below decks furling, and that is a manual furler. So the furling line is led aft. But obviously, you've got powered winches in the cockpit, so then you can still pull it in with a power, sort of electric furling effectively, but without the motor and stuff down here. Open push bit in the traditional Baltic style, and a really nicely organised bow locker. This is also where the gas installation is, and there is space for 2 or 3 quite large sort of Cala sized bottles, 15 kilo bottles if you wanted to have them up here. So you've got plenty of range in terms of cooking. Obviously, if you wanted to go for induction cooking, you'd add a couple of lithium batteries to the boat, and with a high voltage, a high output alternator, you could do that. But the gas for this boat goes forward in here. Really good solid deck gear, big stainless steel cleats, and you've got 3 of those on each side. So they haven't scrimped on deck fittings, it's all properly made and really nice. And I just think on deck she looks like a lovely boat. I didn't mention the mainsail. It's a stack pack mainsail. So we've got lazy jacks and that kind of thing, but it's not too high, so you can easily reach the head of the sail. And that's the nice thing about a slightly smaller cruising boat like this, is that all of the systems are smaller, more easily handled, and actually if you don't need to have a bigger boat, in many ways it's more enjoyable and less stressful to have a smaller boat, 34 foot being a great size for a cruising couple or a small family. I think that's it. I think it's probably time to go sailing. Well, we're just playing around out here in between some of the islands and in the fjords. The wind is fairly light today again, which is a shame because I'd really like a chance to really push this boat. But we've still got sort of 5 or 8 knots of wind, something like that. At the moment, I've got an apparent wind speed of 8 knots over the deck, so it's not particularly breezy. But said that, we are sailing upwind at 4.5, 5 knots, and we are making somewhere between, well, when I'm concentrating anyway, we're making between about 25 and 30 degrees to the apparent wind. So that suggests this boat goes to weather very nicely indeed. She's really light on this lovely big wheel, so I've got really fine control over the rudder. She's got a deep balanced spade rudder behind her lead keel, and she feels really stiff. As soon as she heels to the breeze, then she starts going. Well, what breeze there is today. Because the hull shape's a little bit narrower and slightly deeper, she heels a bit more readily than some modern really wide flat boats. So you need about 15 degrees of heel for this boat really to start going. She's probably happiest when she's fully powered up at about 20 or 25 degrees of heel. But when she gets there, she is absolutely rock solid. 40% ballast ratio or thereabouts means you've got absolutely loads of stability, and that only increases the more you heel. So absolutely solid, really nice and light and responsive on this, and it's really quite delightful sailing just to play with the zephyrs and see what boat speed we can get up. Everything works really well around the helm position. I love the fact that I can tip the chart plotter towards me so I can see exactly where I am without having to strain or stand up. All of the lines are really easily in reach and really easy to operate. On this boat, we've only got 1 winch on each side, so it does mean that if I'm playing with the jib or the Genoa sheet setting, then I'm either swapping winch and winch about, or I'm swapping to the other side to do the main sheet winch on the German main sheet system. This boat, you can have additional winches forward of the clutches, but that would really be for the spinnakers, and then you drop the spearhead out of the way, and then you could have it in slightly more sort of racing performance setup. But as it is, actually for cruising, this is more than enough. And it's quite nice as well. These openings are big enough so I can shove all of the ropes down out of the way into the big rope bins, keeping everything really tidy. So on the helm, this is a beautiful boat to sail, and I really like the fact that she is narrow, easily driven, and we're just ghosting along beautifully here. I can't tell you what she's like in a big seaway or in a big breeze, but I would have every confidence that she would handle that with absolute ease as well. So we are nearly out of time for our test sail on the Linjett 34, but they haven't yet persuaded me to let go of the helm. So I thought I'd just wrap up while we're sailing back in and see what I thought about the boat. Obviously this is a slightly more traditional design than some of the latest boats, and I have to say that it's a better boat for it. I really like the hull shape, the slightly conservative lines, and the fact that it just slips along so easily in these light airs. I mean, it's really fingertip sailing with just a lovely amount of feedback through the wheel. And then you step on board and everything is where it should be. For a short-handed sailor, this is a really easy boat to sail, but I love the fact that I've got all of the lines and controls so I can tweak backstay and Cunningham and all the little controls that mean this is a proper sailing boat. And you shouldn't take from the fact that she's a conservative or slightly more traditional design that she's in any way sluggish. This is a really sporty boat and a really good performance cruiser, albeit she is a proper cruiser and will take you wherever you want to go. At 34 foot, you've got rid of all of the extra size, all of the massive stuff that you don't necessarily need. If you're cruising as a couple or a small family, I actually think that the smaller the boat that you can handle and deal with, the more fun you'll have on the water. You might not sail quite as far or quite as fast, but I think you'll have bigger adventures and you'll have a whole lot less to worry about as a result. If you're looking at this kind of boat, you're probably also thinking it may be an Arcona, a Farby, Hallberg-Rassy. This is definitely a step up in terms of sailing from Hallberg-Rassy, but maybe not quite such a performance-orientated boat as something like an Arcona. In terms of price, obviously you're paying for top quality craftsmanship and a boat that's built in really small numbers. Base price for this boat is about £330,000 sterling, ex-VAT. All in, as we're sailing it today, you're looking at £395,000 sterling, including VAT in the UK. Now, I think that's pretty good value for a boat like this. Clearly, a lot of Linjett customers think the same, and the fact that the boatyard has been going for over 130 years suggests that they know what they're doing. And if I were out shopping for a cruising boat, a Linjett 34 would definitely be close to the top of my list.